just let's start with the getting to know each other, because I want to know what your niches are, who you help, who you serve, and where you are. So, and while you do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so we can actually, I like things to be interactive. I like us to really be able to learn from each other, to grow through this whole time. So, so I'm Angela, and everybody's gonna be popping in. That's good. That's good. So I'm a Texan. I'm a Texan, and in Texas we say that with pride. We love it. So I'm a wife of 25 years. I'm a boy mom. I consider myself an amateur wine taster, which really that just means I like to drink wine on my porch. I've been in and out of entrepreneurial things for 20 plus years. I'm also a master writing teacher turned content marketing coach. And so I have had a lot of hats over the years. I started, though, my entrepreneurial journey selling pink lipsticks. Shout out Mary Kay. 20, let's see, close to 20, almost 25 years ago. And hey, Rona, your email, I think has the Zoom link if you want to join on Zoom. Anyway, I started selling those pink lipsticks, and I just continued over the years to feed my entrepreneurial passion while I built an education career. But it was in education where I learned everything I know about storytelling. Hey, Caddy. And about 8 years ago, I got this phone call from my sister, and she's like, hey, look, we're joining this network marketing company. And I did what sisters do. And I'm like, okay, I'm in to support you. I told my husband, give it 2 months and I'll support her. And then y'all go ahead and drop in the chat who you are, who you serve, and where you're coming in from. So it was then I joined that network marketing company and ended up hiring a coach. Someone said, hire this coach. I was reading a book, The Barefoot CEO, reading her book. And I was on my way to Dallas to actually see her speak, listen to her speak, read her book, emailed her after and said, I'd like to hire you as my coach. And she's like, I'm not taking private clients now. And she gave me the name of someone. And I called him and hired him. And that was everything I needed. I was then winning trips to Disney and all kinds of things. But it was during that, and I'm gonna get more into all this later, but it was after that I hit that top 3% of the company that I fell in love with coaching. And I realized that I wanted to be a coach, not in network marketing. And so that's basically how I got over into coaching with what it is, with what I do now. And so, all right, so Kimberly is parenting coach in San Antonio area this week. Kimberly does, which I'm fascinated by. She does like the RV life with our kids and everything. I think it was so fun. Stephanie, time mastery and boundaries coach for busy moms, time mastery. That is, you're from Texas too? Stephanie, what part of Texas? I feel like I know this.
Arlington. I grew up in Arlington.
Oh, so not far from me. I'm near the Tyler area, so we're real
Okay.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Waukesha, hey friend, she's a math expert for social media. Hold on, I just lost it. For real estate agents. I love it. Yes, Andy, software engineer. Andy and I met at a podcast thing, right, Andy? Yes. Came firefighter in chief. Yeah. My husband's that same way. Right now he's in the other room working on his. And now work with tech professionals as a financial planner. So good. And you're headed to Vegas. I'm going to tell a story about Vegas in a little bit, Andy. So Caddy is my friend, and she's a behavior analyst turned marketing business coach. So many good things, guys. So many good things. And Amber is a piano and vocal coach. So guys, I want you to take a time as you go in the group this week. I want you to introduce yourself in the group and then interact with each other, send each other friend requests, network, because you may not need a financial planner, but you may know someone who does, right? Or you may not need a piano coach, but you know someone who does. And so that's another benefit to times like this, is not just about you learning and growing something. Christina's on, oh, Christina, you were from Denton? You went to grad school in Denton. I'm looking at Facebook. Christina is on there. She helps women overcome loss. So friends, make sure you do an introduction post, and I'll come back to that. So here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to dive in to kind of honor your time, because I'm I can actually go down on lots of tangents, a little ADD at times, but you're in the right place. If you are a coach, if you're a service provider of some type, friends, if you are a 100K coach and maybe you're having trouble maintaining it, maybe you have a 10K month and then you have nothing for 2 months, right? That's the kind of thing, this is perfect for you then. Or maybe you're at 100K and you're just not getting to the 250 mark, right? And so we're going to talk about that and what that looks like. If you want to have control of your client creation, right? So no more of those $0 months between your different launches, right? If you want to stop wondering what to post, or you just want it to be steady, right? You just want it to steady on brand. If you want you want your brand to stand out, right? Or you want to be able to just save time. You don't want it to be so time consuming and be so hard to come up with content ideas. Or maybe you're like, you know what, Angela, I just really need to scale, but I continue to have these little lulls in my business between events and it's just not getting there. So I love it. So that's what we're going to dive into today. Go ahead and put it in the chat of the things I just mentioned. Which one of those really kind of hits your sweet spot? You're like, that's what I need. Maybe you need to start combos. Maybe you just want to feel confident when you show up on social. Go ahead and drop it in the chat. Which one you need the most? What are you most excited for there? Control your client creation, save time, standout brand, consistent brand messaging, standing out. Good, good. Yeah, and it makes such a difference when that happens. Fresh messaging, yes. You know what? We all need that sometimes. And confident in how we show up on social media, consistent, branding with stories, good. Kimberly and I have been talking about that. One of the beautiful things is a lot of people think branding, and we'll go into this a little bit this week, but a lot of people think branding is like our color schemes, right? How many of you have heard that? Your brand, your color schemes, maybe what emojis you're using, the type of graphics and pictures you have. I want to say, what if your stories actually create your brand? Right? Like, think about Gary Vee. Anybody know who Gary Vee is? How many times have you heard Gary Vee talk about how they came over and then his dad went to work in a liquor store, and then his dad bought a liquor store, and then he was sweeping floors in the liquor store, and then he was selling on Wine TV, right? We've heard his story a million times. I could not tell you anything about what color scheme Gary Vee uses. Right? Do you know any color schemes for Gary Vee? No, but we know his stories. So that's why we're going to dive into this today. So today is about using stories to generate hot leads. And I say hot because we all have audiences. We all have a pipeline of people, whether they're hot or not. But how do we make sure they're hot? How do we actually warm them up? And that's really what we're going to talk about this week, how we take them from basically stranger to a hot lead client, right? So it's going to be all about ditching those 0 months between your referrals and the 0 months between the launches that we do, right? So here's how I'm different. I'm not going to just be fluff. I'm going to give you homework. I come from being a teacher. I'm going to give you homework, and I will help you and look at that homework to really help you advance if you're willing to do it. So I will tell you, I taught storytelling for 22 years. The methodology I'm going to teach you is not just how to write a story, but how stories get clients, how they're going to support you to scale to 100K, 250K, right? Everything I'm showing you is foundational, not everything I'm going to show you is foundational to my program and what I do for my own personal business. And it is what keeps me from it's what allows me, let me say it different. It's what allows me to have clients come in my door every month. Every month I have clients. Now, sometimes they go into private, sometimes they go into an intensive, sometimes they go into my group, but I always have clients. I have not had a $0 month in 5 years. And it's because of the things I'm going to show you this week. So, and here's what I want you to know. Even if writing is not your jam, you can do this, okay? So if this sounds like it's gold, put gold in the chat and I will know you are ready. And I will tell you this too, stay to the end because I will do Q&A for you guys at the end who are on the Zoom. We will stop the share in the Facebook group. So if you want to join us live from Facebook, just click the link that's in the chat and come on here with us, and I will have a Q&A. But I'm also going to then talk to you. Here's what I want you to know. This week, I am your coach. Okay. This week, I am your coach. So I help my clients with a very high touch. Very high touch. I am not that client. I'm not that coach who's like, don't talk to me outside the group coaching calls. All right. How many of y'all have had those coaches who are like, you can't message me. You can't talk to me between calls. I'm too busy for that. That is not who I am. I am the coach who's like, you have questions? Let's talk about it. So when we have the homework or you have questions about anything we do here, you can ask during our Q&A time, or let's say you're doing some of the homework, you can DM me and go, hey, this is where I am and I am stuck. And I'm here to coach you through those things this week. You are not alone, and you can get as much from this week as you are willing to participate. So, all right. Oh, I know one other thing, and then we're going to get going. I also opened up, and I don't know if you saw it in the email because I don't think I sent it completely separate, but I opened up a place in my calendar for strategy calls. Now, this is not a sales call. It is not a sales call. And I know, I know you hear those things and you're like, she's going to sell me when we get on there. And that it's not, I'm not. You don't have to buy anything, I promise. But if you want to have a strategy call where we look at what's going on in your business, what's going on in your content, and talk about where you are and where you want to go. And I'll tell you, I'll give you my 2 cents of what's keeping you from there. Okay. And you can do with that and kind of get your own game plan together. I'll help you get a game plan together and we'll do that. So let me just drop that link in the chat here. There's that. And tell you, let me drop it into the chat in the, I love being on Macs. It just like boom, boom, moves everywhere. So, okay. That I'm saying all that and look at the housekeeping stuff out of the way. With your permission, though, I want to let you know I will be mentioning about my Inner Circle coaching program this week as well, and how, if you want to learn more about using stories to scale 100K and higher, I'm going to be weaving it into what we talk about. Okay. So if that's okay with you, go ahead and give me a thumbs up just so we know, like, hey, you know, it's going to be happening. I'm not going to pretend I don't coach. I'm not going to pretend I don't have a program. And if you're wanting people to come into your program, you can't pretend you don't do it either. So we're going to look, you can observe what this looks like. So here's my question for you. How many of you have ever been in a network marketing company before? Right? Your thumbs up. Yes, no. How many of you bought from one? Yeah. Yeah. So I have a couple of thumbs up. I have hands raised that they've bought from them. I was the same way. I was the same way. And a lot of coaches start there. And like I told you earlier, my sister called me up, and I want to tell you this because this is going to lead right into what we're doing. My sister called me up one day and she's like, hey, look, my mom had been, this was October, end of September, October. My mom had been diagnosed with breast cancer that summer. My sister calls me up and she's like, look, we're getting healthy. And she's like, I joined this company. I'm like, that's great. I will buy products from you. And like good sister, she's like, no. You're going to join my team. That's what sisters do, right? Like, she's like, no, you're not just buying products. You're on my team. I've already filled it out. I just need your credit card. Like this is sisters. And I'm like, okay. Told my husband, look, I'm just doing this a couple of months to support my sister. And the next thing I know, I've outranked her. I've won trips to Disney, like the whole thing, right? But I will say I took my sister with me when I went to Disney. So that it's when I hired my coach. I told you a little bit earlier how I got a referral, hired him, but that's when I fell in love with coaching. And so one Saturday morning, he kept asking me this. He kept going, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I'm like, well, you know I want to leave teaching. I know I want to have this lifestyle. I know I like what I'm doing. I love working with people. And he said, he just kept asking. And one Saturday morning, I see a ad for the Health Coach Institute on my Google. And I click on it. They have health coaching and life coaching. And I'm like, I wonder if this is real. And I message Mike, my coach, and I'm like, hey, is this legit? And he's like, yeah, it's real. It's a real thing. You can become certified in these things. And I signed up that day. And it was the best thing I ever did. And it completely changed the direction of everything I was doing. So I'm telling you that because when I then got into coaching, the only thing I knew about marketing my business was what I had learned from network marketing. In the chat, tell me what you think they teach us in network marketing about marketing your business. And if you're watching online, just tell me there too. Hot, warm, cold market. Yeah. Yeah. What's reach out to all your friends and family? Yep. Constant reach out. You're right. It was cold DMs. I have sent thousands of cold DMs. Like I had sent so many, I didn't even have a feeling about doing it then. It was nothing. Call your friends and family. Yeah, all of that stuff. Make your list of 100 dream clients. Right? But here's the thing. So when I got into coaching, I immediately knew there were some things from network marketing I didn't want to do, like hey girl messages, right? Hey girl messages are these. Hey girl, I just saw you on Facebook and thought about you. Did you know I'm selling such and such? Hey girl messages. So I knew I had to do things different. So here's what I did. So they said, go post value. Don't you hate that? It means nothing. Go post value. What does that mean? All right. So value things for me was, okay, I posted things about what I learned in coaching school, right? I posted things about where I like took blogs or books I was reading and I reworded something and I shared my takeaway aha from it, right? Anybody do these things? Yeah, that's what we do. Like, this is what we do. So I shared what I was learning, but here's what happened. I wasn't showing any kind of skilled level of expertise. I wasn't. So I found myself really struggling to get warm leads and sign clients. Yeah, I had lots of leads. I could send a friend request and have a lead, but they weren't warmed up in any way. So now I just had to wait for referrals. And I will say I was very, very lucky because I am truly, I've always had at least one client on my books. Now, my mom was one of my first clients, friends and family, but I've always had a client on my books, even from then. But there was never the growth and it was so slow. And I say crickets, but it wasn't like there was nothing there. It was just inconsistent waves and it never grew. If I thought when I was working full time, if I thought, okay, I'm ready for 4 or 5 clients, I'll quit my job. I already had 3, I'd gain another one. I'd think I'm on my way and then someone would drop off. And it was just this never ending seeking for it to grow. And so that's where I was really struggling. So raise your hand if you, at the beginning of your business, or even now, if you are still in this place where you're just waiting for referrals and you are finding yourself with these lows maybe between launches. Like you do great quarterly doing some kind of launch, but in between there's like nothing, right? So you say yes if that feels familiar. Yes, yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of how I moved into this. And that's why even in my program, I'm very much like, it's not just about telling a story. You want to learn how to tell a story, you can go grab a book. You can watch a YouTube video meant for a 4th grader. It's true. But how do you then use them to build your authority, your expertise? How do you then use them to move people to be that leader and guide them through that process? So that's the core of my program, what we do there, right? So I'm an action taker. Who else is an action taker? Say yes if you're an action taker. I'm an action taker. So here I was about a year in, and I hired a coach for $30,000, right? Anybody else's tummy just dropped? Mine did. And I took massive action. Started a podcast. I was blogging. I was doing so much. I was still working full time. I hired a VA to help me do everything. And you want to know what? I'll tell you, I found a lot of things that year. Number one, I made $7,000 that year. I spent $30,000 on a coach, right? I also hired another coach, and I may have this in my notes to tell you at a different time, to help me run ads. Had zero money from that. But so here's what I learned from that. There are certain things that we do not need to make money, to have hot leads. So tell me in the chat, what are some things you think, I don't need that to make money? A lot of people say we need funnels. Yeah, ads, website. We don't need those things to make money, right? Cindy Lou. Hold on, I got to look at the gallery. Cindy Lou, I see you here. Hi, my friend. She's tuning in from Australia. Are you in Australia
Nope, New Zealand. New
now?
Zealand.
Okay.
Good morning,
We
beautiful.
used to be in a program together. I didn't know you were here. Yay. So you're right. So let me show you. And this is on your workbook if you have your workbook. Things you don't need. You don't need a website. You don't need a blog unless you love writing, right? I'm gonna tell you this, you don't need a CRM. They can be handy tools. I have one, I like them, but I can make money without one. I don't need a setter. In fact, when someone comes at me with a setter, I'm not doing business with them. If the person who wants me to come into their program doesn't have 1 minute to talk to me, I don't need to talk to their setter. Okay, ads, you don't need them. I've tried them. And I'll tell you what else, like you don't have to dance on reels or be crazy. You don't have to do all that. You don't have to do all that. Pre-recorded modules, now you don't need that either. You don't need cold DMs. So any of these things you can put on there. So if one of them speaks more to you, put it on yours. We don't have to have all that. So thinking about that, let's do the opposite. So what do you think you do need? Did I make a thing for this? I think I did. So what do you need? You tell I'm a teacher. I got my chart paper. What do you need? What creates a hot lead? Yourself, authentic connections, good. Good. Expertise, good. Authority, I love it. Story people can connect to. Yeah, you have to be likable. Like that goes a long way. Connection, human factor. You're so spot on. I'm going to give you these. So we have to have connection, but let me tell you what the connection piece is about. It's about an emotional connection. It's an emotional connection. It's not just any connection. Just because we live in the same town doesn't mean anything. But we both have kids that are like, I'm thinking about my kids. We both have kids that are in the same band, and when they go to state, they ended up with third instead of first when you just knew they had first. Now we got an emotional connection because we both experienced that. See the difference? So an emotional connection. And then the likability, but I'm going to tie the no. They taught me this in Mary Kay 25 years ago, like and trust, no like and trust. Right? We still have to have, can you see it? There we go. No like and trust. We still have to have that to get leads and to have a hot lead. If they don't know you, they have to get to know you so they can like you, and then you get to build trust. Like it goes in an order, right? The other thing, and I don't know, some of the things y'all said are on there, but I'm going to go ahead and give you some. We have to have vision. we have to have a vision for where we're taking them, but we have to also hold the vision for them. We have to create vision inside of them. We have to help them to warm that lead up. They have to be creating a mental image of working with us, of what that looks like. Okay, so that's part of that. So this goes along with it, is that then has to be, well, not just the vision, but we have to have clarity. We have to be clear. All right, if I misspell something, nobody gets to judge. That's the rules here, because I don't pretend to be the world's best speller. But we have to be clear and rememberable. Okay, we have to be rememberable. I can't even say it. If they can't remember us, then they're not going to come back to work with us. Right? It all goes together. It all goes together. So then we have to be we have to be interesting. I'm going to just say it. Nobody's going to hire someone who's just boring to be around. Right? They're not going to read your content and warm up to you if it's boring. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. It doesn't mean it can't be simple. It doesn't mean you have to be constantly talking about how you're on a jet somewhere or hanging out on a yacht in the Mediterranean. That's not what I mean. But it has to hold an interest. And your ideal client, your best client is interested in what you do, right? So you have to be interesting, and they have to be interested in what you have. Then the next thing is problem. They have to have a problem that they want solved. Simple, right? This is how stories are going to help us generate leads, because stories help create all of that. Okay. All right. You know what, real quick, while I'm thinking about it, before I go to the next thing, if you are on video, can you, or if you're not on video, can you video yourself for a minute? And if you're where you can, and let's just take a picture. Let's take a picture. Hold on. Yay. If you can't, that's fine. All right. Everybody smile, cheese. Let me get it. Oh, all right. Hold on. I've got multiple screens. I got to make sure I'm taking the picture of the right one. Cheese. Okay. Thank you. I was just thinking I should do that. Okay. Now I can't see my notes. All right. Oh, now I just lost my screen. Did I hang up on you? Oh, okay.
You're still in the Zoom.
Thank you. There. Now I can see. Now I can see again. Okay. All right. So it was during that year that I hired that 30K coach. I hired an ads coach. I ran thousands of dollars in ads to a webinar. I had all these sign-ups, and I had 0 people come. It was a fun day. It was a fun day. But I told you I was an action taker. So let me tell you what, like, I still showed up and did that webinar to an empty room, because that's the kind of person I am. I recorded it. I sent out the replay. But let's just think about, why did I have 100 people signed up and no one come? I could probably go into, maybe I didn't know how to do an email sequence as well as I do now, those kinds of things. Maybe I didn't have urgency. You know, it wasn't a priority. They were cold. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. I didn't recognize a single name on the list. They didn't recognize me. So they didn't have to come, right? So no one showed up. I still did it. I sent out the replay, but that was the beginning of the end of bro marketing for me. And so I'll tell you, I had a good little pity party cry fest from that. I remember crying to my husband almost apologetically, because I've spent all this money on the ads, all this money on that coach, and I still didn't have anything to show for it. And the part that was so hard for me is, and tell me if this is you guys, I'm always successful at what I do. I'm smart. I've always got good grades. I always would, at whatever career I'm in, I was always the top of my thing, whatever it was. So when I was the go-to teacher, I was the teacher that the superintendent, the principals wanted their kid in my class. I was the teacher who even the kids with the behavior issues didn't act up with me. It was just different. And I couldn't figure this out. And I'm spending tons of money trying to, because they say if you spend the money, if you just hire the coach and go all in, well, I did that and it didn't do it. So then I figured out, as I had that little pity party, I was like, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm not even having fun. So if I'm not having fun, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And so I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold a challenge in my group. It's the first challenge I ever held in my group. I may have had 5 people sign up. That I signed my first high ticket client from that. That was I think at the time it was $3K of the 7 I made that year. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of that. So after that, I was like, okay, I don't need that blog anymore. I was pinning on Pinterest like 16 pins a day to my blog, podcasting, all that kind of stuff. I kept the podcast for a little while, but it was slow and there were gaps. So I'm still doing the things. I'm all organic, but now there's gaps. Now I'd sign a client and go 4 months without signing a client, right? Raise your hand if that's happened to you. Like you sign one and then you're like, okay, and the next one, where is that one? So that's when, and I'm still at the time, technically in network marketing. And that's when my friend Kelsey, and she's in our group. She is a VA. She teaches VAs how to build VA businesses is what she does. She's amazing. She left network marketing too. She's like, hey, why don't you come to Vegas? Because at this point, I think I'd gone from when I signed that like 6 months and not signed another client. I was like, okay. She's like, just come to Vegas to convention. I'm like, but I'm not really selling that anymore. She was like, yeah, but you know what? You'll have fun. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go have fun. I love the women. We're going out to great restaurants. There's parties and dressing up and all the things. And I can sit and through this convention, learn something because I still use the product. So it wasn't a problem. And it was in there, I'm sitting in there and this cute little blonde in these really tall high heels comes out and she's standing there and she begins to tell a story. And I'm telling you, you could see the entire room lean forward. 5,000 people just lean forward. And she's telling a story. And then she pivots out of her story into talking about how stories sell. And I say this all the time, but it was truly like the angels began singing and the heavens opened up because it all made sense to me because I was still by day teaching storytelling all day long. It's all I did. And I was like, well, I can do that. I'm not sure how yet, but I can do that. She didn't say, here's how you teach a story, here's how to use a story, any of that stuff. And this is before she didn't even have a book out then. She was just a keynote speaker. And I went home and I was like, okay, well, I teach stories. So what do I do in my classroom that I can come over here and do? And I began doing that. 4 months later, I signed, not 4 months, 3 months later, I signed 4 clients in at high ticket all in 1 month. And I was like, oh my gosh, this works. So let's look at this because here's what happens. And I don't think I put this on your thing, but there's an extra place for notes. So if you're in your workbook, you can put it on there. Here's what happens for most people. We're showing up. We're doing a million actions because you're an action taker. And you're spending several hours a week actually doing content between maybe a podcast, between your blog, between your email list, between what you do on social media, the reels that you're making, the YouTube videos you're making, right? I know you guys because I've seen your different things. And then you are serving some clients in there, but the content's not converting, right? So, because here's the deal. Value content, like we're all said, go show value, go get value. That alone does not build the safety, hear my heart, the safety that clients need to feel to come into that sacred coaching relationship. So think of it like this. I had a client for a long time who is a sex coach. Okay. She helps women with their sex lives. Would anybody enter into that coaching relationship without feeling very safe to share all their business, to share everything that's wrong, to share why they're afraid of sex or why they're not having sex or whatever trauma thing that goes on for them? Are they ever going to share that? No. That's why. And it's easy to see in a niche like a sex coach, but think about it with your niche. Even in business, nobody wants to tell a business coach, hey, I know it looks like I'm making money, but I'm not. But no one wants to tell someone like, hey, Kimberly is a parenting coach. I'm really struggling to not scream at my kids 24/7. Because we don't want people to see that side of us. And so when we want to bring someone into that coaching container, we really have to be building safety. Okay. So that's the problem. I'd put on my paper, content's not converting, but it's like the true answer is we're not building safety. We're not building safety. And connection, all that comes with it. So here, let me ask you this. How do you know that you're not building safety? What are the clues? What are the clues? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. How you know, HYK, how you know, right? No sales, yeah. No sales, not converting. Yeah. No reach outs. Not coming to your events. There was another one I was thinking, oh, they don't take your call to actions. Right? They don't take up the call to actions. You say drop the word and they don't drop, nobody drops a word. Right? Right. So when this is happening, you're not building safety and you know, because of all the clues, what do you think the impact is on the client, on the audience, the lead? What's that impact? Go ahead and drop it in the chat. No engagement. I don't know if that one was for the bottom or the top. There is no impact. Yeah, right. There is no impact. No, that's like no safety. Impact is, well, let's, yeah, like I'm gonna put no impact, but I want to, hold on. But what does no impact look like? The no trust. When they don't feel safe, they don't trust you, they're no impact. Oh, I had a different idea in my head. Hold on, let me think about it. Just one second. It'll come back. You're listening, your dog is nuts. It's fine. So, but here's the thing. The impact is they don't get the vision created for them, right? Do you see what I'm saying? They don't get their emotions evoked. They don't trust you. They keep the impact is they keep their distance up from you. They keep that, what do you call that? They keep that hesitancy. Does that make sense? Right? Because we've all felt that way. Like you meet a coach and you're like, I kind of like her, but you don't want to book the call because you don't want to be pressured. You don't want to do whatever because you just don't trust yet. Right? So they keep, I'm gonna put distance. Maybe. Even in little ways, like small distances here, be like, they won't even hit like on a post. Because they don't want you to reach. I remember that, especially like back in network marketing days, like I could see, I would do something and I would know people aren't gonna hit like on this because they don't want to be sold to. Right? That's it. So the fix is, how do we have to build safety. And the way we're gonna do that is storytelling. That's how I do storytelling different in my program, is everything we do around the storytelling is about creating safety to move them through that client journey. And we're going to talk about client journey tomorrow, but how do we move them from a stranger to a friend to a prospect to client? There's different levels of safety of how we move them along. And there's different, we have to develop that. And our stories, our content are what guide and push them through. We don't have to just be the expert in our niche. We have to be an expert leader to them through our content. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Say yes. Okay. This, I don't know, this is on there. So find the page. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Kathy. Find the page where there's that blank space, because you're going to want to draw this. The notes page that has the blank space, or if you're taking notes on paper, get ready to be wowed. Because when I had this aha for this, it made sense why there were gaps. So let's talk about the gaps. Does everyone agree we all experience gaps in our business, like between where there's no clients coming in? So let's look at it like this. So here's this line. Okay, so this is launches. Let's do launching. Right? No clients. 2 to 3 come in, 3 or 4. Maybe we come back up here to another high and we get 1. We have the highs, but then we have lows where there's 0, right? You're not making any money. Okay. So then, let me see if I can do this. Woo. Then we come in and maybe we get a few referrals, and it's going to kind of overlap a little. So this is referrals, blue line's referrals. RR. Y'all forgive me. I told you I'm a bad speller. But so see, we still have some gaps, but they're not as big, right? It closed in. So now we have launching that gives us some clients. We have referrals that kind of closes that gap. Let me see if I can do it a third time. But then here, but then when you add content that actually converts and is not just a checklist of like, hey, yay, I got some content out. I want to show you that how that can do different. It can fill in those gaps where there's just, if I was a better drawing, I would have had no gaps in that, but I'm not here to be your artist. Do you see how it fills in more? Where there's less gap of the client. This is how you scale to 100K, 250. It is not just clients. I mean, just content. If you're waiting just for the content to show up and magically bring you, you can get clients from, you can have 100K a year from just your content. How? You're charging 10K a pop, right? High ticket, you only need to make 10 people in a year, right? Everybody just went, yeah, that's so much easier to say than do, right? But you add launching, you get a few more. You have referrals coming in, a few more. What I'll even tell you is there's ways with your content, with your stories to get your current clients and past clients sending referrals, right? It fits together. So we don't just rely on launches, especially 100K coaches usually are doing some type of launch. Okay, let's be real honest. They're doing something, even if it's once a month, they do a 1-hour webinar. Once a quarter, they do, like I do once a quarter. I like to do the longer things like this. Something, right? But there's the in-betweens. And this is where content comes into play. It measures together to create the full business. Okay, so this week we're just talking about stories. I should have drawn better lines, like storytelling, content. But even inside my program is not inside my program. I'll tell you this. So inside my program, we even look at the launching, like what stories do you tell in those events? What stories do we tell our current clients? What current stories do we put in our content for the people who are former clients or in our email sequences to bring in referrals? There's different stories there too. So it gets to, so when I say storytelling, I can mean in content, in your events, and in things for like getting those referrals in the door. So this week though, we're going to specifically talk about in our content, but these inside my program, we talk about the other things as well. So, okay. If you had a more consistent stream, please imagine this with a better drawing. What would that do for your business? Like, go ahead and put it into the chat. Like, just take a minute, allow yourself to have creative vision of what that would look like and feel like, and put it in the chat. That's not for me. That is for you to help process that and take it deeper. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Less stress. Less stress, more consistent income, fire. It is so true. And it just allows us to have less of the lulls where it's not just, do you still have lulls? Yeah, you can still have a lull. But it won't matter as much because you had bigger months on the other months, or it's a way where you don't have to constantly be in a launch, right? Because that can feel overwhelming too. Okay. I'm like, what else did I put on here? Okay. 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 So just thinking that now I'm like, okay, go tell a story. Go ahead in the chat. Tell me the yeah, but that came up in your mind. Yeah, but Angela, what? Go ahead and tell me the but on that. Why you do that? Yeah, but I don't know how to tell a story. Yeah, but I don't have story ideas. I don't have stories to tell. I've heard that one. Right? What comes up for you? Too many stories to tell. Yeah. So then it's not focused, right? They're unfocused. Don't know which ones are on your brand. Yeah. Hung up on your words. Oh, that's that wanting to make it perfect. Yep. Yep. What if it's the wrong story? Yeah, that's more perfectionism, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And we also have anybody here think, you know what, I'm not a writer though. I'm not a writer. I don't, it takes too long. How do I do it? Yeah. And I'm going to give you a short, simple way today. Actually, I'm going to give you just the basics of it. And then we're going to, as the week goes on, we'll actually have some other structures that I'm going to go into. Inside my program, though, I'll tell you what I do, and it makes it really easy, is I'm like, okay, you want to tell your foundational story about like why you do what you do? This is the structure to use. You want to tell this type of story? This is how you do it. You want to talk about problems and solutions? Here's what you do, because it's not just transformational stories. And we'll go into that later in this week. I'm hilarious in person when you get me to know me and you don't know how to convey it. Yeah, like exactly. And so it's learning those things like that. How do we really bring our personality into it? So let's look, and I guess we're on, I don't know what page. we're on this part. So basic storytelling content is very simple. You're going to hook them, tell your story, and then have a call to action. Okay. This is not new. Later in the week, I will actually show you how to write that story, but let's talk about these things. So the hook, guys, you have 3 seconds to grab attention. Think how fast you swipe up on TikTok. So it's gone, it's over. Right? Think how fast on Instagram you scroll up or Facebook, like it's there. So we have to do a couple of things. So the first thing with hook, I'm going to tell you this, is you got to have a scroll stopping image. It has something with your image that's going to make them stop. There you go. Sorry for those friends on Facebook. I didn't realize it wasn't on there. And you can't even see all the people that don't have their video on, but that's okay. So we have to stop them, the scroll stopping image, and then we can take that and grab attention. So then we can use the hook, which is actually when I taught 4th graders, 5th graders, and 6th, I didn't take 3rd, 4th, 5th. One of the things we'd say with the hook is that this is basically how you're going to grab their attention and hold it so that they are staying with you. So the hook is your image and then the words, the first words in the either on the screen, if you're doing like a reel, it's the on-screen words, or it could be the first words in the caption. Okay, think of it like this. It's like that introduction that we used to write in our 5-paragraph essays. It's that first sentence that really, they read it and they decide if they're going to read more. And if it's not interesting, if it's not of their interest, they're not going to go on. Okay, and there's a lot of really fun ways you can kind of, I don't want to say manipulate, but you can create the environment for them to move forward with you. All right, so in one of the things in my program, like I give them a sheet with all these different ways you can do it. And then each week I also send out like a content tips with a hook of the week to make that easy to try different ones. And so a lot of times it's finding and experimenting with what works for you and what your audience responds to. Okay. So then the story. So a basic story right here. Okay. Kindergartners can do this. I'm going to tell you, you can do it too. Beginning, middle, and end. 1 sentence. What happened at the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened at the end? Boom, you have a story. It does not have to be long. Anybody that tells you that you have to have this long blog style piece is lying. Can you? Yes. If you are a writer and it's engaging, there's a copywriter I follow and I'm on his email list, and I'm telling you what, I skim everything. I am a skimmer. If I go to a landing page, whatever, I'm skimming, I'm scrolling all the way to the bottom. I don't read every word. Some people do, different personalities, right? But this copywriter, I read every word of his emails every day because he's so good at telling the story. I don't mind it being long, right? But sometimes I'm like, let's do these real short ones. It's just fine. But here's the key. It's not a long story in the sense of it's not. When I would teach, kids would do this. They'd go, tell me about a favorite memory you have. And they would write about their Disney vacation for the 10 days they were there. And it would be these long things. It's all every moment that they spent for the 7 days or whatever it was, right? Instead of just telling me a micro moment. This is the key. This is where most people go wrong. Instead of just going like, hey, I remember when she looked at me and said, get on the roller coaster. Then now we all have those, our emotions get evoked because we've had those moments where we're scared to get on, right? It changes everything. So that's the difference there. We want to have what I call them is kernels, like these kernels, these nugget moments, not a full long story that could become a book. All right, then calls to action. This is basically just moving people to taking action. This is where you make offers, that kind of stuff. Here's the thing, and I can give inside my program, I give you all the kinds of examples of what this looks like, but here's what I want you to know is this is where you step into leadership. I had a coach one time, and I know we're getting close to our time, so we're almost done. I had a coach one time say she doesn't really put calls to action on her stuff that her clients were smart enough to know to reach out. What are your thoughts on that? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And I'll tell you mine. I think that's BS. And here's why. Here's why. And I'm sure this comes from my years in education. If I had to model it for my students. I had to model it for them. I try to be the first one to comment on my post. If I say drop the word story, then I go down there and drop the word story. And I don't do that to work that algorithm. I do that to model how I want people to respond. If I want you to tell me about your evening, then I'm going to go tell you about mine. I'm not going to ask you to do something I would not do. Right? And so when I taught, the reason I do that is because here's how people learn. Beginning of the year, and let's say at the beginning of the year, I say, hey, we're going to write about a time, about a special person. And I say, my special person is blank. This is my special person because now 90% of the room is going to go, my special person is, and they're going to change the name. This is my special person because, and they're going to put their reason, but they're going to really model what I've done. It's right. That's, and that imitation is a way their brain is trying to learn. But by 2 months down the road, they're not modeling my words. They're changing it to be their own words, or they're not even using anything near my structure and are creating their own. It's a part of the learning process. So this is another place with those calls to action where I am stepping into leadership to show them how to respond. New friends need to see, here's how you answer my post. Experienced friends, they haven't even looked at the thing. They're already dropping the word. We have to teach them. Okay. We have to teach them. We have to say, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to do this, and then you're going to click this button and schedule a call. Like, we have to just teach it. We can't assume everybody knows. All right. That's me on my little high horse on that one. So this is the basic thing here. Later in the week, we'll talk about how we actually brand ourselves with stories, how that looks there. Today, it's just this short, like, this is the structure. And later in the week, we'll go into more of like this part right here. We'll dive more into this, the structures of that, because I teach that there's different ones. I teach like we're certain stories we tell strangers, certain stories we tell to build trust, certain stories we tell to move that prospect to being really warm. And then how do we convert? There's different stories for conversion. And so I teach that, and I use different structures for each one. I teach like, here's the parts you need in this story for that. But we're not going to get in, we'll get into a little bit of it this week as we go on, but not all of it. Homework. Okay, let me share my screen because I just want to talk about this, because this is, can you see it? Okay. So here's the thing with this. I put this is, I want you to think about these things today. When we talk about storytelling, using storytelling to get leads, I want you to just come with what are helpful thoughts you're having about that and unhelpful thoughts. So these are things I do with my clients. We don't just like, here's a bunch of structures. We have to dig into like why we're struggling to post, or why we don't want to tell that story, or whatever kind of BS comes up in our brain that's keeping us from making that, using storytelling to convert. Okay. And then I want you, after you do this, give your brain proof that it's possible. So what I mean by that, so let's say in there, you said, maybe you said, okay, helpful thought is, well, you know what? I tell stories every day in real life. When I go talk to my friends, we tell stories. I can tell a story, right? But then an unhelpful thought is, yeah, but you know what? I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer, right? So then possibility, this is just leaning into what is possible, proof of how you can use storytelling. And it might be, but you know what? It's possible for me to learn because I am smart. It's something as simple as that. It's just leaning into what's possible for you. Well, it's possible that my story might impact someone's life and they may make them want to work with me. So it's just leaning into that possibility there. This is the life coach in me coming out right here, guys. And then paint a vision for yourself. I want you to play with doing a little bit of visualization of what would that look like if your storytelling generated leads. It's different for everybody, but I want you to play with that. So, and here's what I would tell you. What I would love to happen is do this, snap a picture of it and DM it to me. And I'll give you feedback and we'll talk about it, right? Like I said, I'm your coach this week, and I'm not just strategy. Like, we cover all of it, because if our mind's not right, we can't get there. So you get to play with that this week. All right. The other part is make a post to introduce yourself. Do that inside of Connect, and then interact with the other people. Most of you, I've given permission to go pre-approval on your permission. Some of you, I wasn't sure who was what. Like, I might have 5 Kims that like, seriously, I had like 5 Kims that registered, and none of them had their last name on it. And only like 2 of them could I figure out from their email which Kim it was. So, so some of them, like maybe with the name on there plus what your email, like, I don't know who this is. I couldn't correlate it to a Facebook name. Or like if I had, like I said, like I had 5 Kims, well, I didn't know which one I needed to give pre-approval for. So if you don't have pre-approval, let me know. You get to tell your brains what to do with this. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So do your thoughts, send them to me, and then make your introduction post. You can do a reel, you can go live, you can do a static post, just a picture post, whatever you want to do. All right, tomorrow is what to do with the leads. Tomorrow we're going to actually start talking about actually moving them along that client journey, which is where I'm really different from the rest of the world, where you're not going to get when you go look at Stories That Sell book or Story Brand. This is where I'm different. Okay, so come back tomorrow. All right, Q&A time. I'm going to stop the Facebook share. Q&As for people in the Zoom room.